So, did anybody read your newsletter? Did everybody see what the word? Oh, good. No, transhumanism. Did anybody look it up? That's all right. I'm going to tell you what it means. Although I probably won't read the whole thing. It's a long definition. It needs kind of a long definition because of what it is. But after I gave this to Francie puts everything together after I write it. Thank you, Francie. And she said something to me. I never thought she said she thought it might have something to do with transgender. That's what this thing is. Right? So I forgot the word for a second. I said no, it doesn't have anything to do with that really. Yes, but anyway. So anyway, what that made me think of is what the word trans in front of something means, and it's not the same as meta, but it means beyond. So transhumanism is really this long definition, but I'm going to let you know some of it, but not read all of it probably. It's the philosophical and scientific movement that advocates the use of current and emerging technologies. We've got AI going on, don't we? Such as genetic engineering, cryonics, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology to augment human capabilities and improve the human condition. So, what does that say to you when you think about it? Just shout out something if you want. If you don't, that's okay. Or you probably have to think about it for a second. When I thought about it for a minute, first of all, this talk came about from you know how sometimes you read a book or read some author for a while, and then you think, well, my friend, when you've never met him or her, and so I almost said my friend, but I've never met him or know him, Dr. Sean Tobin, and I've mentioned his name before. He's actually a Catholic, high up in the Catholic Church. Bishop. I don't know. Is he a bishop?
I don't know.
I don't know. He doesn't go by bishop. But anyway, he's very high up in the Catholic Church, very respected at least. So anyway, I like his stuff because he's kind of like, even though you think, oh, you're a Unity minister and you like this Catholic guy, but and he's strict on some of his stuff, but I can get where he's coming from on a lot of things. So it's kind of cool for me to read his stuff. So on this transhumanism, what he's been on this thing for a while and trying to help with the Catholic Church, because you remember I told you probably a month or two ago about the Pope actually issuing something about the AI that's happening, about being kind of afraid of AI taking over things. And so, he's one of those that gets up there and talks to him, logically and all this stuff, and says, oh, we don't really have to worry about it, but you have to be aware of it, you know what I mean? Because it could do the worst thing, but it isn't meant for the worst thing, I hope. I mean, most people who use that stuff don't think of it as the worst thing. And I find it's funny when you start doing this, and Francie's phone is bad about it. She's got a bad about it, or whatever, good about it, whatever you want to say. She's got an Apple phone. I have an iPhone. Or no, she has the iPhone. I have the
Android.
And I've never switched to the iPhone. This is such a good, when I'm going to talk that you need to add some of the sentences, so I appreciate it. But anyway, her phone, it'll be coming up with stuff we talked about, all this different stuff, and give, if it's something like a cleaner or something, she'll have also these ads come on our phone for their cleaner. It's just, I just don't like the
It does my iPhone.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Yeah, they're made to do that. Anyway, so when I was thinking about this, on this, I think that most people at some point would want some of this that we're talking about on transhumanism. We want to be able to live longer, healthier lives that are full of purpose and things. So we want that advantage, and a lot of things are working toward that. When I had my finger pulled off, the end of my finger pulled off, there was this, they just got done, I think, and Francie looked it up and it was really interesting, with using the understanding of, and I don't know how exactly they did it, of how a lizard grows its tail back all the time. And they said that at that time they had just completed doing something where they could have tried to put it on my finger and have my finger grow back. But these crazy things come in your mind when you think about that. So if I put that on my finger, will it come back just to normal, or will I have a finger out here? And will it come off every time somebody steps on it? Who knows? So anyway, you just think weird thoughts sometimes. You don't have to, though. We have
What
to
did
train.
it do?
What did it do?
What did
I
it
didn't put it on my finger.
Oh, you didn't? No.
No, I did not. No. It was brand new and everything, and I don't know how easy it is to get into something like that anyway.
It was kind of in trial studies at that
Yeah.
time when that happened.
And that's a few years back, so it's probably good now.
20 years.
20? Anyway, time flies when you're having fun. So, let me go ahead and finish this though. You can look it up if you want to, but I do want to do some of this. Because this definition was from Britannica, which used to be, well known. I don't know if some of us are old enough to remember Britannica encyclopedia. But anyway, transhumanists envision a future in which the responsible application of such technologies enables humans to slow, reverse, or eliminate the aging process. Have you heard me talk about that before? I think you have.
Probably.
Yeah, you have, because I talked about Fillmore's, finishing my sentence. You, Sandy, should know this really. What is it? Finish my,
Fillmore's talking about Fillmore.
living life, not having to die.
Regeneration.
Thank you, see?
Oh, what?
Regeneration.
What?
Regeneration. So you've heard me talk about it before, and it's along those same lines. And that scares a lot of people sometimes, and I understand, as you grow older, when we're young we think, oh yeah, that's cool, let's do it. But when you get older and your body isn't functioning the same way, and maybe some of your friends, maybe some of your family has made their transition, there's a different viewpoint of it. So, it's nothing that we're to that point yet, because the human psyche, the human ability to think about something like that is not there yet. But that's kind of what we're talking about, isn't it? With the help of machines and all sorts of ideas. To achieve corresponding increases in human lifespans and to enhance human cognitive and sensory capacities, the movement proposes that humans with augmented capabilities will evolve into an enhanced species that transcends humanity, the post-human. Now, when you think about that, sometimes you think of post-human. What does that mean? Does that mean that we're part human, part something else? Could mean, the $6 Million Man. Remember that show and all that? But that's not really what we're talking about on transhumanism. We're talking about how to do what not only Charles did, but what Myrtle started this church with, is healing, talking to yourselves, understanding how they work, and letting them heal themselves. Because we all know as children, when we were children, how quick a cut would heal, and how all these things seemed like to be just minor glitches on the road that were, as people grow older, maybe it takes a lot longer to heal, maybe it takes a different idea to do something. But that's not necessarily where we have to be. Because that was the whole idea behind what Myrtle did. You do not inherit sickness. You don't inherit it, so don't quit believing that it has to be you. You don't have to be sick. Bill, rest his soul, he did a great job, but and I'm going to tell on him here. I don't think I've told this story before. But he told me, he said, Warren, once you turn 60, my mom always told me, boy, was she right, that all your body's going to start falling apart. And she was right. Boy, when I turned 60, he said, my body started falling apart. I said, Bill, I can't believe you're immune and you think that. She said, well, it's true. You know how he got kind of defensive sometimes when you talk to him. But he was true. But we don't have to believe that. If you believe that, what's going to happen? Your body's going to fall apart at 60, isn't it?
Yep.
If you believe that, and that's the truth for you, your body's going to fall apart at 60. I guarantee you that. You can guarantee that's going to happen.
Right.
But all of us really want what we're talking about in transhumanism, where we don't have to abide by the old thinking, and we have to, go to heck, our body goes to heck once we turn 60. Because it doesn't have to be that way. We think that sometimes, and it's not here's where we get into some of the problem, and I've talked about this before too, is when we stop thinking like that, if Bill or whoever would stop thinking like that, it's not saying your mom was wrong. It's saying that I have learned more about my body now, and that I am moving to a different dimension. I'm moving to a higher plane where I know that that does not happen to me. Myrtle Fillmore, what did she do? I mean, she was told all her life by her family that she's, I can't remember the word, it's an old word now. Not feeble, but anyway, she's never going to really essentially amount to much. First of all, women were less than back then, right? In the 1800s, they weren't. It still drives me crazy when I think about women getting the right to vote in the 70s, or getting not the right to vote, but the right to whatever it is.
Get
they
a
got
loan
something.
or anything.
Huh?
Get a loan.
Oh yeah, just anyway, it blows your mind when you look at history sometimes and think, you're kidding me, it took that long? But anyway, so we'll look back at this sometimes and what we're talking about today, say it took that long for you guys to think that you didn't have to inherit stuff like that? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so what? Now we're where we are, right?
That's true.
I mean, later on in life we're going to be talking about something else. And what we should be focusing on, and what we can focus on, is how to improve our life in whatever way we want to. If we don't like something, change it. Change your thoughts about it first. You're not going to be able to change it. Like if I want $1 million in my bank account, my one bank account, I'm not just going to be able to say, well, I'm going to believe tomorrow I'm going to have $1 million, and tomorrow I'm going to go out and spend it. That ain't going to work. You've got some block already. If you don't have $1 million in your bank account, you've got a block already. You've got to figure out what that block was and release it. You have to get the junk out of your way. It's kind of like you're going down the road, and there's a bunch of trees falling down and boulders that come on the road. You can't get through the road until what? You clear it out.
Right.
So if you want to go from one A to B, and it's a block, you have to clear it out to get to B. Now, you don't have to go there if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think that our spiritual growth and our redemption and our salvation even come only one way. And you're going to think, well, how can I get all that stuff cleared? This is the way. I'm going to show you. It's easy. Well, it's easy, but not, it's simple, but not always easy. Okay, I'm going to read this first, and then I'm going to tell you how. Do I have it written down, or do I have it? I'm just supposed to say it. Okay. I'm just going to say it. The way we do that, the way we reach salvation and redemption and all that, is one word: forgiveness. It's hard to recognize that that's that's that easy. It can't be that easy. It can't be that easy. But it is. We have to forgive ourselves for thinking. That's what Myrtle Fillmore did on her health. Have to forgive ourselves for thinking that we are less than in any part of our life. In any part of our life. Are we less than that? Really? We're limiting ourselves in that area? You don't have to be limited. You know, I talk about Dave Ramsey and promote his way of doing things a lot, but you don't have to be that strict on yourself, really, if you do the right thing. Now, if you do the wrong thing, then, I mean, if you have a credit card and you don't pay it off every month, this is getting into financial stuff, I know, then you're doing it the wrong way. So don't expect yourself to be adding something to your life that you got something else and do it the wrong way and expect a different result. That isn't going to work either. You still have to release all that stuff, all that you have to forgive yourself for all that junk that you've had in your way. Now, the overcomer, which is what Fillmore talks about doing this, is one who recognizes the truth of his being and is renewing. You notice the word, renewing. So that doesn't mean, okay, I've got this, okay, I've thought about this, and I can make this $1 million appear in my bank account by doing this, this, and this. You go out and you allow yourself, you forgive everything in your way to allow yourself to get that $1 million. You get that $1 million in the bank account. Then, you think, maybe, and I'm sure all of us have been through this. There's nobody young enough to not have been through this. We've had a goal and we've reached it. Okay? And you've had this goal and you reached it. Then, what are we going to do? If you sit on your laurels, you're going to lose it. Believe it or not. I hate to tell you that. Because we, as spiritual beings, we are going to we need to always be renewing our mind, body, and affairs by changing the thoughts of the old mortal beliefs. In other words, once you get that $1 million in the bank account, you need to get $2 million in there. And it's not, you're not taking it back. Here's one of the detours, one of the things that we have to forgive ourselves for. We get $1 million and, gosh, what about the people who don't have $1? What about the people who don't have $1? They're just as capable as you. And I hate to put this in a financial sense, really, because it doesn't really come out nice. And I want it to come out nice because it's a nice thing. We all have to learn how to live this. Because I know you know this, most people who win the lottery, what happens in a year? They're broke. Why is that? Because they have these old mortal beliefs that, whatever reason, they're not worthy of having $1 million. They're not worthy of it. So they put that on other people too. Bill Gates isn't worthy of having his money. I don't really like Bill Gates personally. But, and I don't think he's worthy of having the money. No, I don't mean that. But I said he's worthy of having the money because it's unlimited. We have to get the limits off of our thinking. We are unlimited spiritual beings. We don't have to be limited by anything, financial or otherwise. So, get rid of the old mortal beliefs to the new as he sees them in divine mind. Now, what's divine mind?
God.
You're right. Your connection, your knowing of God. And this is where, it all comes back down to here. When we are here in church sharing what we know of our divinity, then we can absorb it from not only absorb it from other people, but add to ourselves and know that there's greater for me. We have to know there's greater for us. We get stuck in these things sometimes, and when we don't, it drives me crazy sometimes. But we're going to go over that. We're going to go past that, though, brother. We're going to overcome what I'm talking about. So the person who overcomes, he demonstrates the divine law not only on surface life, but in innermost consciousness, in prayer, in meditation, where nobody's around. That's where we need to demonstrate, because that's where we're going to build our base. That's where we're going to go back to the truth. The funny thing is about it is we are remembering. It's not something new that we're learning. It's something that we already know, but we have not exhibited or understand yet in our consciousness with a C, which means our awareness. And then when we get it in our awareness, it'll come into it's already in our consciousness as far as spiritual with a capital C. It's already in our spiritual consciousness. So, when we do this, spiritual power, mastery, and dominion are attained by the overcomer. And then he uses the Bible quote from Revelation. He that overcometh, I will give to him to sit down with me in my throne. From Revelation. Think about that. So once you get all this stuff, and once we continue to learn, it's not saying that you don't have it right now, because you do have it already. But once we get it and start exhibiting it, it'll be different than the goals that we've had in the past in our life, because we'll recognize that this is something that I can build on. This is great. This works. Let's go. So, here's the good thing too. No matter what road you have taken to get to this now moment, you have a clean slate ahead of you. If we're talking financial, I don't care if you're in debt up to your eyeballs. Today is a new moment. We have a choice to do what we need to do to get out of that situation if we want out of that situation. Or we can do whatever. And whatever we're talking about. Relationships, anything. Health. Health we do great. I think Unity does a great job on health. Those who are willing and ready to accept their health can accept it and go forth with health. Not just, which I'll get into in a minute, not just getting by, but health. So, this is it next. Good. Yale, I know Jim had probably heard this. Did anybody hear about Yale's 12-year study that just came out this week? I was glad to add this to the service because I added it late because I didn't hear about it late. But they studied 11,000 people. Now, I know not everybody fits in this, but you should look forward to it. 11,000 people, 65 years and older. They had to be 65 to get in the study. So at the earliest you could have got out is 76, all right? Almost 50% of the people in the study got better health-wise, mentally, all aspects of their life got better. Well, that's not what's supposed to happen, is it? You turn 60 or whatever it is, 65, you're supposed to go to heck, right? Your body's declining. You're just dying. There's nothing left for you but this black abyss of nothingness. I mean, that's what we do sometimes too, to society. Francie, it was funny, I don't know if it's this week or the week before, Francie asked me, and I knew because I was already a pilot, said, did you know that commercial pilots have to retire at 65? That means airline pilots. There are commercial pilots, I shouldn't say. Airline pilots have to retire at 65? I said, yeah,
Used to be 60.
Huh?
Used to be 60.
Yeah, it used to be 60. And I said, yeah, they've had that for a long time. And she said, why? And I said, because they think that they decline in mental abilities. But let me ask you something. Now, everybody that comes out of flight school is, when they're going into a airline pilot seat, is rated at certain planes, okay? You can't, like I can't fly an airliner, okay? I'm not rated for that, all right? I can fly small planes, but I can't fly an airliner. Okay, so everybody comes out of school is rated for that certain plane. Now, if you're a passenger on that plane, would you want two people because there's two, almost all planes are two pilots of the airlines, not all, but almost all. Would you like two people who've only been doing that for a couple of years, which is a lot of hours, and I wouldn't doubt them one bit myself, personally. Or would you want one that's a couple of years in and one 70-year-old that's been doing it for 40 years? I mean, that's the question I ask.
Right.
And I would like the latter myself, the second one, with the 70-year-old and the new guy.
Yeah.
Personally, I would like that. But, that's not the consensus of what we have out there, is it? And we have to change that study is going to help a lot. There was 11,000 people in that study, in that 12-year study. 11,000. That's a valid study. Huh?
All of them? All of them improved?
No, almost 50% improved. Now, they didn't all in, but they were, and I say almost 50%, and it's closer to 60% if you're talking about certain areas, okay? But in overall, it was almost 50%.
And why? I mean, what did they
Because they chose, I'll tell you why, thank you. Because they chose to not believe the old idiom that you have to be dying when you retirement age, because that's what that is, I guess. You have to do that. Because you don't.
Nope.
Now, if you sit around all day and do nothing, and eat bonbons, the old saying, what's going to happen? That would happen to you, though, when you're 30.
Yeah, it's true.
So, it's what we decide to do, how we choose to live our life. So it's important to know what you're going to do. But here's my first answer, I told you already. It begins with total forgiveness. And it does. We have to forgive ourselves for thinking that thought was true. We have to forgive anybody else. And even, because you're going to be slapped with it still. If you're an airline pilot, well, you're forcing me to quit? Yeah, we're going to force you to quit. So you're going to be slapped with it sometimes. But you have to rise above that and know, well, I'm going to be more successful at something else. Whatever it is. Because, there is still a lot of ageism in our country. And they say that everybody says everybody as far as corporate world say there's no ageism. There is ageism in our country. There's certainly, it's just like prejudice. It's there. It is a form of prejudice, actually.
Yeah.
But, it's there. So what? That isn't going to stop me.
Right.
That's what we have to say. It's there, okay, I'll find another door. Because there's plenty that are open. And so, as we go forward, we know that we can forgive the thought that somebody's blocking me. Because nobody can block me. Okay? So, life continues, though, and I've already kind of touched on this, with remembering who and what we are. Now, human body does what the human body does. We have all our whatever it is, our DNA, our hereditary stuff, and that is just what it is. But it doesn't have to define who we are. Okay? Because some people are born with, and I'm going to use this example. I don't want to hurt your feelings, Francie, but Francie had a sister that Patty, who had Down syndrome. And I'm using her as an example because I think she's a good example of this. She was full of love, as far as me, of course, Francie wasn't too happy when Patty and I would get together because I was her boyfriend. And she'd go up to Francie, he's my boyfriend. And so I'd say, yeah, Patty. Anyway, so Patty had Down syndrome. And, when, I'm not trying to be mean, okay? But when her dad always took care of her dad and Patty's dad, would always take care of her. But when he passed, when he made his transition, she, the conservator of her, put her in a home. Well, Patty had never been in a home. She'd always been at home, and Patty really wasn't one to be, she loved going to work, but she wasn't one to be that would, stay there, It's kind of like when you have kids that are young and try to stay over overnight for the first time. They're not comfortable, okay? So, no big deal. But, it ended up that they, how families work, okay? So we wanted to take her, but that didn't happen, so we weren't allowed to. So anyway, she was put in this home. Well, she didn't make it. She made her transition, what was it? Less than a year, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it's just months.
It's less than a year she made her transition. And there's no doubt in my mind, and I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying the facts, what happened, that she would have lived a lot longer if she would have been staying in the house with a family member.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what does that tell you? I mean, I think that Patty, and I don't know if all Down syndrome people are like this, but Patty was one that she remembered a bunch of her spiritual stuff. She couldn't communicate it, except through her love, because she would love, she was one lover.
Mm-hmm.
She, though, was close to her spirituality. And so when you're close to your spirituality, you don't put up those roadblocks. But you are comfortable in certain situations with knowing the truth of who you are. That's what we talked about a minute ago. So if you know the truth of who you are, then life continues and can grow. And so I can see when someone loses that comfort zone, if you will, how they can go downhill fairly quick. But we don't have to. We have to learn how to remember where we come from. Because as a child of God, you have the ability to become whoever you decide to become. I don't know if when you were a kid, if you remember, I don't even remember personally, well, maybe an astronaut or something silly like that, but what you thought you were going to be when you grew up. And whether that's the same what you ended up doing, or if you ended up doing something else, which most people did something else, because when we're kids, we have a wider imagination. And so when we think about that, what we're doing though, or what we are going to become as a kid, and then what happened, we can look back and say and decide what we're going to name that. Are we going to name that a good thing, a negative thing, or whatever? Or are we going to look at the truth and recognize that that's just what I did, that's not who I am? And here's an exercise that I've told you about before that's not as easy as you think. We did it in seminary, actually. If I had you sit down and you take out a piece of paper, and the only question is only one question. Who are you? You'd probably write down a lot of different things before you got to who you are. Because a lot of us start out with, if we're coming from a business sense, we start out with, I'm whatever. I'm an accountant, I'm whatever. But that's not who you are. That's what you do. And there's a difference. We have to figure out the difference between what we do and who we are. And we do have to know that to give total forgiveness and continue with our life the way we want it to be. And here's the important thing. Optimism. We have to be optimistic. I hope that Unity Church, whenever you go to a Unity Church, that you leave more optimistic than when you came in. Because that's what we try to do. And not because we're just, everything's airy-fairy, out there. We're not saying that. It's saying that we can deal with anything within ourselves. Because we have the power to. And because we're not alone. We never are alone. And we're coming from our spiritual understanding, so we can handle anything. But optimism, the inclination to expect good. The practice of seeing God, which is all good, everywhere. A studied belief in the goodness of reality. And he used reality. This is from Charles Fillmore, The Real Word. But he used reality because that's what we're in. Now, if we're talking about the absolute, we can easily do that. That's what most churches do, no matter what they are, Christian, whatever. Well, we're here in reality. We have to do that. But in the absolute, in heaven, it's different. Why? Because we say it is. Not me, as far as the person up here, but that's because of what we say it is. If we don't say that, then we don't have to believe that. We don't have to do that. We can make our heaven here on earth.
That's right.
And that's a big one for some people, as far as grasping. How can you make heaven here on earth? Well, let's think about it. Change your thoughts to good thoughts, first of all, and see what happens. Especially those of us with kids, or anybody who has younger people in life, which are most of us, we want a better life for them, I hope. Most of us do. All of us do, I think. If we love somebody, we want a better life for them. The only way they're going to have a better life is if we start teaching them how to live